I'm really tired.
Yeah, me too.
It's John Pollock and Wai Ting, and together we are in Orlando, Florida, where we have just, I think, lived through multiple days within the span of one. That's what I feel like at this point, Wai. It feels like days ago I met you.
It has been days, kind of. I mean, for me, I don't usually live more than 20 hours in a day. You know, I check out at maybe like 16. I'm good after 16.
You have more bizarre sleeping patterns than I do, but for the past 39 hours, I've been awake for 36 of them.
Oh, now I'm going.
Oh my God. Wai just drove into oncoming traffic.
Hey, come on. Don't be ridiculous. I am in a foreign country, okay?
Oh, shit. Oh, man.
Maybe I should shut off this GoPro. Make sure we don't have
this could be
video evidence. Alrighty.
Well, everyone, me and Wai have gone through a very long day. It started with the two of us meeting one another at 4:30 in the morning at Toronto's beautiful Pearson Airport, where we flew on a 6:20 a.m. flight non-stop to Orlando, which I was at least able to get a bit of sleep on. Aside from the fact, after not sleeping all night, I fell asleep on this plane, and then this child behind me grabbed their hand and slapped the top of my head, waking me up, and then immediately the child apologized to me.
That's something you'll notice about flights to Orlando. A lot of families, a lot of children. It is a family destination. And I find it quite annoying.
There were some really loud children. I think I was very tolerant with the child. I said,
it's okay. You're gonna have to be coming up.
So, Wai, when you checked in your luggage,
yeah,
and we were instructed that there's no carry-on allowed over 5 kilos, what was your thought there?
5 seems low.
It's really low
for a carry-on, even. I mean, you know, I've been on plenty of airlines where they don't even really enforce it, but I guess
this woman was very nice. She let me get by with 6.5 kilos and just let me go through.
You're making it sound like we were taking drugs across the border. You know?
No, I was taking extra shirts, and that apparently put me over 5 kilos.
So yeah. Anyway, that was a bit of an ordeal, but
we did make it to Orlando. The trip was none too anything to talk home about. It was a 3-hour flight. That's it.
It's a 3-hour flight.
It's very warm here in Orlando.
So we got into town at like 9:45 a.m.
About that time, and you and I picked up our rental car, and then we decided we got to eat. And we're in America, the heart of America, and what clogs the heart of America? Denny's. We went to Denny's. We not only went to Denny's, we got on a goddamn wait list to get into Denny's. Yeah. So we went like a pair of tourists to a gift shop and then came back to get our seats, of which, after 2 requests, I did get some milk with my coffee.
Yes.
So already I gave a thumbs up to Denny's just for that add-on.
Yeah, that is always John Pollock's, I guess, biggest challenge in America.
It's a real chore to get milk with your coffee. They don't understand why you're doing this. Here. They forget about it.
I don't really understand why you do it and why you just don't stick with cream.
I don't like cream.
What's the difference?
It's thick. It's significantly thicker. There's a reason there's 2 alternatives.
Add a bit less of it. Can you really taste it once it's mixed into your coffee?
It's in my mindset. It's just not. Well, it's like you need cream, right?
Yeah, I prefer it. I mean, if somebody gave you cream and said, "Hey, this is coffee," would you notice a difference? Okay. God, this guy just forced me off the road.
Oh. Was that the turn you needed?
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. I'm gonna make you right now.
Oh, this is a.
I
don't think you can you out over this thing.
Oh, never mind. There's a curb.
That's a median.
Maybe I should. You should be doing most of the talking while I'm
definitely,
doing this driving.
You just chime in
for our benefit.
So we got to Casa de Bower, which is where we are staying in Orlando.
Oh, describe Casa de Bower.
Well,
what is this?
already
this is quite the experience.
We got to have our our highlight when we got to this place, which was quite the trek from this airport. We knock on the door, and who opens it but one Dave Meltzer.
It was like an episode of Cribs with Dave Meltzer greeting us.
It was great.
Saying, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to my crib.
Yes.
But, I mean, this place was, like, pretty much exactly what you would picture an Orlando retirement home to look like. It was nice and big in a gated community, and this
Got
happened...
a pool.
Had a pool.
This is a very nice place. This is the
Very
nicest
nice
place we've ever stayed at on any trip you and I have gone on by a wide margin.
I'd say it beats the
This is
hotel
no
in
Cleveland.
Yeah.
That would have been the worst.
But of course, tell us about who's staying at this place.
This is the All-Star House. Okay, first of all, you and I, we're sharing a room, not a bed, but we've got a printout with a law logo on it.
Okay.
For the law room.
Yeah, and why?
Well, because we're with the law.
And what's the significance of it, John?
Because we have to separate all of the rooms because there are multiple brands under one roof.
Yeah, this is a podcaster's house.
There's the MLW room, which is Court Bauer and Matt Farmer. We've got the New Japan room with George Carroll. And we've got the Wrestling Observer / Writers room with Dave Meltzer and Alex Greenfield.
All under one roof.
It's like all these extensions of our friends and family under one roof.
I won't have to download a thing. I'll just have to I'll just listen
Just
to it through the
eavesdrop.
walls.
We'll just get a cup.
Oh,
Where you can go for a shower and just listen to people talking about.
We're sharing a bathroom with Dave and Alex, and that'll be interesting.
So we got there to the home, very nice house, and then after an hour we had to get going because we had shows to cover. We got to the Orlando Live Events Center, which was a very long drive, over an hour.
Yeah, I guess...
traffic was brutal.
Love the house. Court really hooked us up. Gave us a great deal. It's about an hour out. Yeah. We're all the way out in Kissimmee, Florida.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a give and take, but that allows us to record this while we
have a long drive home, and thus you're getting these shows at a perfect time for us, rather than making small talk in the car without anyone to enjoy our chatter.
Yeah.
Got to the Orlando Live Events Center.
Yeah.
And this was maybe our smoothest just check-in. We got hooked up with some interviews that we wanted to conduct. We got to speak with Donovan Dijak. We got to speak with Matt Riddle.
I was really impressed by how you were able to just get into these interviews without knowing who you're going to get to talk to. These people would just kind of step up, and John would just be ready, It's as if he had done research on everybody and just knew the backstories of all these guys without even a second's notice of who he was going to talk to.
Gotta always be prepared, like a Boy Scout. That's why I watch everything. The guy, we had this person, this was our guardian angel. This guy shows up who's with the WWN team and was
he's a wrestler, and if I believe I feel bad that I don't know him, but the guy certainly looked like a wrestler. His name is Pero or something like that.
Yeah, so we're there. This is about a half hour before doors open. Yeah. So these guys are, they're going through everything. They're getting ready for the show, and not at a very opportune time to disrupt them and, hey, come do an interview. And this guy just said, hey, who would you like?
We didn't even ask.
He came to us.
He saw that we were lost.
And I was just had a blank, and I just started spouting off names, and he brought them all to me. So I had no rhyme or reason.
You could have said Vince McMahon. He would have went out of his way.
Let me see. I'll get he's at this hotel. So it turned out great. We got some really good interviews, and the third one was a guy that from Hamilton, but a guy who I've never interviewed before, Ethan Page, who was, I thought, great to chat with. This guy could not have been more accommodating with his time. Just telling me, take as long as you want. So all of those interviews will be coming out in the near future.
Yes.
And I was happy with all three of them. Mm-hmm. And then we got to run into so many people. The first person we ran into, this guy who comes up to me and said, hey, guess who I am? I'll give you a hint. Twitter. Twitter.
Oh, it's quite the hint.
Okay, you're on Twitter. And it was the legendary, the renowned James Vanderbeek.
The Dawson himself.
Oh, man. When I realized who it was, I almost had the Dawson crying meme.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess, like, James Vanderbeek. This is not James Vanderbeek, the actor. But
anyone listening to this, I'm sure.
But the wrestling James Vanderbeek.
He's overtaken the actor.
Yeah. He's more famous than the actual James Vanderbeek. But the thing is, like, his avatar is always something of James Vanderbeek. And so in my mind, I imagine this very handsome-looking man. And not to say this
great
guy...
Great master of wrestler pun names that he creates.
But not to say the guy I met wasn't handsome. But, you know, this man was a bald man with a beard and tattoos and looked nothing like...
Joey would probably not be interested in this James Vanderbeek, right?
Not at all. No, but I mean, very nice guy.
Yeah, so met him. Then I ran into Alan Cunahan and Matthew from Botchamania.
Yeah, the Matthew.
Yes.
Wow.
Our pals, Damian Abraham and Brian Mann were there.
So a real who's who, come on, of the wrestling world.
Listen,
not just...
you'd gone off for a walk, and I met so many people there, and it's always really great to meet all these people. And I even had one while you were gone who came up, and he started talking to me, and he said, I know it's weird, but ultimate thrill ride. And I was like...
I missed it, shit.
And I was like...
I missed it.
If you really want one. And it was a little awkward, and I was like... Way's not even here, so it's just like...
I couldn't even document it.
Two strangers hugging.
Well, I will say, like, certain people have just been like, Brian Mann just decided to hug you out of nowhere.
Okay, he came up as I really needed to, like, go to the bathroom, and he just gave me this huge hug, and I was...
Oh, and he felt bad about it, because you looked so pissed. Like you
I wasn't pissed. I was literally, I needed to piss. Yes, that was the difference. Yeah. Damien must have hugged me 3 or 4 times. So a lot of hugging amongst the our pals. And then we actually took in the show. Is there anyone else we ran into? I'm trying to think now. I always have this neuroses when I'm thinking afterwards. If I met any strangers...
No, but you ran into Dave Lagana.
Dave Lagana was there as well. Yes, he was shooting some stuff there as well. Yes. I have not seen him in years, so good to run into him as well. As I have mentioned, I have slept 3 hours in the last 39, so if anyone ran into me and I was not very talkative...
Nobody cares about shout-outs.
Okay.
Or
that's all I'm trying to recall who we ran into. But we did stick around for the majority of the Evolve card. This card did go a little lengthy, and Way,
you stayed a lot longer.
You hit a wall.
Than I did,
which I don't blame you.
Oh man, I've been running on 3 hours of sleep. Got to the airport at 4 a.m. and just like I actually quite enjoyed the show, but like up until a certain point, I could not just stay awake, and there was no slight on the show whatsoever. It was just me. I've been up for like a certain number of hours, and I just needed to take a walk. And eventually I just like decided if I was going to last the rest of the evening, I had to just take a nap. So I retreated to the car and took a nap while John finished the show.
So we're going to quickly run through Evolve 81 here. We won't go super in depth here or anything like that. And then we're going to chat about the Hall of Fame, which we also attended. And Way was awake, I think, for most of it. I think I turned over 1 or 2 times and you were not.
Yeah.
It was long.
Coffee really helped.
Long Hall of Fame. Yeah. Did you find coffee when you went for it?
I did.
Wow.
It was an easy task.
They'd be selling it that late.
Yeah.
Okay, so Evolve kicked off with Zack Sabre Jr. and Michael Elgin non-title match, and they did an angle at the end of the Thursday night show. And this opened the card. Way. Zack Sabre Jr. was off to go do the Revolution Pro show, and I'm sure Elgin had other shows as well, so that's kind of the tricky balancing of these WrestleMania week shows. And they wrestled like a main event match in the opener. Like they went 16-38, and some impressive stuff here. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr. got cut over his right eye, so there was blood in this match. Some of the highlights included Sabre with this armbar from the top turnbuckle and then got slammed off. It landed this hard penalty kick for a 2 count to the chest of Elgin, and Zack Sabre Jr. was working on the arm of Elgin, kicking away at it, trying to block the lariat attempts. Eventually, Elgin hit a DVD to Zack Sabre Jr. on the apron. It ended up with this roll-up that got caught by Sabre, who just bridged with his legs to cover Elgin, wins the match, and Elgin's just coming into Evolve. He had done Evolve years and years ago, but just kind of isolated, and now he started with them at the Thursday night show and then back here on Friday. But I thought this was a really good opener, and this was like worked as though it was a main event.
A really stiff, hard-hitting main event caliber match, and I think the only thing that felt a little odd about it was the fact that it was an opener, and I don't think anybody, a lot of people maybe filing in late to the show probably didn't expect it, and so the crowd didn't necessarily feel warmed up to really receive
the palate. You were going right to steak.
And we had just, like, a lot of the same people I imagine had stayed for the Progress show that just took place earlier, so, but, it was kind of like, to me it was kind of cool, because, like, I walk into a room, I'm in Orlando where there's a ton of wrestling, and then I walk into a room and I get to see Michael Elgin versus Zack Sabre Jr. And I can leave that room and then go to another room down the highway and probably see another, like, main event caliber match. So it's just like, it was just a moment where I realized, wow, there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of incredible wrestling in the city for the whole weekend.
This is a very nice venue too. I mean, you either have the ringside seats or they're all like raised, almost like movie theater seats. Like there's no bad seat where you'd have an obstructed view. It's a really nice venue. And before I forget, when I was watching Thursday show, Lenny Leonard calls these shows solo. And there were a few instances on the broadcast on Thursday where he might have messed up the name of a move, and he was explaining on the show how he's really far away. And then watching this dude is halfway across this really big building, and he's got no monitor. I don't know how he does this. It's incredible.
Why would he not have a monitor?
I don't know. Maybe it's a budget issue. I don't know, but he needs a monitor. I was just watching him. I'm like, I'm amazed. This guy's calling this from like hundreds of feet away.
Yeah.
It's very far.
Yeah.
Next match, Lio Rush came out to make a challenge, and Drew Galloway interrupted him. Zack Sabre Jr. ended up walking off after Rush made the challenge to him, and we got Drew Galloway and Lio Rush. Crowd was into both of these guys, even though Drew, he's playing a very, very effective heel, I feel, in Evolve. Drew did a lot of big power spots, hit Lio Rush with a big boot, knocking him inside out, delivered a pile driver for a 2 count. Rush hit a tornado DDT, and then Galloway called him a little bitch, hit him with that Jack Gallagher headbutt to the chest, then a spinning Future Shock DDT, and ended with the stuffed pile driver, the same combo he did to Matt Riddle on Thursday's show, and he beat Lio Rush in 9:19.
I thought a strong David Goliath type of match, and both guys look great. It's my first time seeing Drew Galloway live, I think, since
he's really good, and in comparison, especially in Impact, it didn't do him justice how much bigger he is than a lot of the guys.
He really stands out. He played a total giant in this match, and I think a very effective one, because I think his character work is very strong now too.
Then we got Goliath versus Goliath, and this was the match of the show. This was awesome. Donovan Dijak and Keith Lee.
I mean, what were your expectations heading into
I had high expectations, because I think Keith Lee is tremendous, and I think Donovan Dijak is really good as well. I was not surprised at all that these two had this blow-away match. This was the best match I've seen so far. I've only seen the Evolve shows this weekend, but this was the best match I've seen. Just such impressive athletic maneuvers by these huge guys. Like Donovan Dijak is so tall, and Keith Lee is so big, and these dudes work like cruiserweights.
Yeah, you interviewed Dijak before that, and you specifically asked him, have you been receiving criticism for kind of working more of a high flyer cruiserweight style for being a big guy? And I mean, he certainly didn't give a shit about that in a match like this. Neither of those two did, and it was fucking awesome.
Dude, this was the match of the show.
Yeah.
Man, some highlights here. There was a tornillo by Lee to the floor, a corkscrew Asai moonsault by Dijak. Lee missed with a moonsault, and then Dijak hit a Canadian destroyer to Keith Lee.
It's crazy. I've never seen Keith Lee prior to this. I don't know how many of our audience has. But, like, Google what this guy looks like. Keith Lee, Evolve.
Watch some of the tag matches him and Shane Taylor had with War Machine. I mean, he was on Ring of Honor for the last year, and he made an impression on me the first time I saw him.
Yeah, but, like, certainly not a guy you'd picture taking or giving a Canadian destroyer.
There was a press up into a chokeslam by Lee. Then the feast your eyes off of the top turnbuckle by Dijak for a 2 count. He got him onto his shoulders. Lee did a top rope moonsault, got a 2 count. Everyone was into these near falls. Each countered chokeslams by backflipping and landing on their feet, and it ended with a sit-out powerbomb by Keith Lee, 12 minutes and 10 seconds. This match is up on Flow Slam. Definitely go check this out if you have the opportunity.
Recommended.
This was definitely my match of the weekend so far.
Show stealer.
Yeah, great match. ACH and Timothy Thatcher followed them. First of all, there were these guys in the crowd, and you know how when I'm taking notes, I love to eavesdrop. One of the guys at one point during that last match goes, I never thought it would be this match that would get me hard.
You made the last one, yes.
Yes. And then in this match, with ACH and Timothy Thatcher, they had to look up Thatcher because they were confused if it was Thatcher or Drew Gulak. They weren't sure. They thought it was the 205 Live guy. And then one of the guys yelled, "No more rust holds" at Thatcher. ACH won this match in 9 minutes and 10 seconds. And this was also when I met one of our listeners who did use the code word.
So, another one?
The one and only. Only one guy used the code. Okay. Decent match here between these two. A lot of people are very down on Thatcher. I kind of enjoy his style, but it's not for everybody. 6-man tag, Tracy Williams, Jaka, and Chris Dickinson of Catchpoint took on Sammy Guevara, Austin Theory, and Jason Kincaid. Guys that have been showcased on Flow Slam and in FIP as well. Austin Theory is 19 years old. This was where these guys, they were asking about who's this Wyatt member in reference to Jason Kincaid and asking what happened to the rest of Luke Harper. And then these guys did a lot in this match, and it went a lot longer than I thought it would. 17 minutes and 18 seconds. Sammy Guevara hit a shooting star press to the floor. Jason Kincaid, who I'm not the biggest fan of, I don't really get the guy, but this was one of the better outings I've seen him have. He did this diamond dust to the floor to Jaka coming off the apron. There was also a triple coast-to-coast drop kicks by the baby faces. They delivered a super choke slam to Sammy Guevara off the top, and then there was a jackknife cover at 17 minutes and 18 seconds after the super choke slam. Meanwhile, Jason Kincaid had a submission on Tracy Williams, but his teammate got pinned with the choke slam, and Jaka using the jackknife cover. Afterwards, Catchpoint, who have been going through all these problems of late, they got into the ring together, shook hands, but then Larry Dallas came into the ring and tried to stir shit involving Catchpoint. And that led into Catchpoint members facing each other with Matt Riddle and Fred Yehi.
What can you explain Catchpoint? What is that? Like
Catchpoint is like, it's kind of like a shooter group.
Okay.
And they feature the tag champions Tracy Williams and Fred Yehi. Right. Matt Riddle is kind of branching off onto his own, but he's still part of the group. So that's kind of where that group is, and they're kind of having internal problems. Chris Dickinson and Jaka are like the other tag team, and they want a shot at the tag champions who are their team members.
Gotcha.
Riddle and Fred Yehi, I thought this was a pretty good match, but this was back-to-back 17-minute matches, and I think it kind of wore on the crowd who still had a main event to come. There were slams by both. Yehi was stomping the bare feet of Riddle. Riddle then used a German, landing on his feet, and then hit a flying knee in response. A pair of rolling gut-wrench suplexes, and then these crazy up kicks by Fred Yehi into the chest of Riddle, which was a great spot. Riddle hit him with a pair of tombstones, got a 2 count. Yehi recovered, applied the Koji clutch, and Riddle passed out. And Yehi got the submission win. Bit of a surprise win. Riddle's been pretty well protected. He did lose, though, to Drew Galloway the night prior, and now to Fred Yehi, so they're telling that story. And afterwards, Catchpoint came out to check on Riddle, and that was that match. The final match, unfortunately, we had to get going because this show had run really long, and we had to get to the Hall of Fame, and we're trying to sneak in dinner beforehand. So the final match was an anything goes match between Darby Allin and Ethan Page, who have been feuding for a long time. And they did this wacky angle on Thursday's show where Darby Allin returned in the same body bag that Page and the gatekeepers had placed him in. They threw him around in this body bag. There were these medics dressed as zombies. It was pretty weird. And apparently this match was super violent. There was blood, and Darby Allin won the big Anything Goes match in the main event. And that was Evolve 81. So from there, Wai and I headed in traffic to downtown Orlando and got something to eat, and then it was Hall of Fame time. And Wai, I am really glad we ate because this was really long. This was almost 4 hours of speeches. This was too long for me. And I'm saying that where there really weren't any bad speeches, I would say. It was just, there's definitely a happy medium to people are given 5 or 10 minutes, or this format where it seemed like everyone could go out and they could just go as long as they want. And the only ones who seemed to kind of get shortchanged to wrap up early were the APA with Teddy Long, who were second from the top, and they realized this had been going long.
I would say, to me, it felt like maybe Angle was kind of like very aware that he had to.
Angle felt like a short speech.
Yeah, and maybe Cena too. Though, you know, I'm sure somebody.
I wasn't complaining, though.
Me neither. Not at all. By that point in the show.
So we won't go through like every little detail here. I just want to get Wai some of your thoughts on the speeches. First up,
you're gonna have to help me out with some of the earlier ones because man, I was still tired.
Yeah, I'll go through some of the early ones here, and then you pipe in here. Eric Bischoff inducted Diamond Dallas Page. Bischoff talked about their history, including having a bar fight together before they became broadcast partners in WCW. But talked about Page being a real pro. When he brought up Bill Goldberg, Goldberg did get some select boos throughout the show, not to the level Roman Reigns or John Cena did, but there were catcalls for Goldberg. And
do you think that's any indication of what will happen on Sunday?
I think there will be some of it. I feel Roman Reigns is going to get booed out of the stadium. Goldberg, I think it might be more of a mix.
Yeah, I think so.
And it'll be interesting to see. I guess we can talk about this now. I mean, it's out that Jim Ross is expected to be part of the broadcast, and I think most would assume he's either calling that match or he's calling Reigns and Taker, and that's going to get a huge response, Jim Ross coming out.
Yeah, and so, in your opinion, do you think Goldberg-Lesnar closes the show or Taker-Reigns?
My feeling is it's going to end up being Reigns and Undertaker, and that's where, if I have Jim Ross calling one match, I kind of lean towards that one.
And do you think it'll be Taker's last match?
I think it could be. I think that's a possibility. We'll see. Like last year, that was the thinking going in, and he even left the gloves in the ring. And this year, I think there's a possibility it could be. Okay. And if it were to be, that probably should be the match Jim Ross calls.
Yeah.
But back to the speeches. DDP came out, and DDP was not going to be
cut short.
He was not shortchanging his speech. He went a good 30 to 40 minutes.
He went that long?
Dude, he went really... It was like...
You were timing it, weren't you?
I wasn't timing it, but it was like 8:45 by the time he was done. So that was the combination of... Bischoff went about, I would say, 5 to 7, and then Page went the rest. It was a long speech.
30 minutes?
Yeah, dude. Like, it was like 8:40, 8:45.
Okay, I mean, it wasn't bad.
No, like, that's the thing. I am not going to say any of the speeches were really bad.
Yeah.
Dude, there was a lot of praise for Dusty Rhodes throughout this entire show. A lot from DDP. Talked about Jody Hamilton, his mentor being Jake Roberts, along with Dusty. He kind of took credit saying, I taped every one of my matches and now go on YouTube. Everyone does it. Thanked Johnny Ace for helping him develop the Diamond Cutter, the Randy Savage feud. Thanked his ex-wife Kimberly. Mentioned Jericho really spearheading the endorsements for DDP Yoga. And put a lot of emphasis on winning that WCW title. I mean...
Oh, nothing about the stalker angle?
Dude, not a word about his WWE run. His only mention of his WWF run was driving his Cadillac to the ring at WrestleMania 6.
His career ended...
The stalker, the motivational speaker, that did not exist.
His career ended in 2000.
His career ended when he won the WCW title at Spring Stampede 99, as far as this was concerned. Jim Cornette was next to induct the Rock and Roll Express. I thought Jim Cornette was great. And this speech, if anyone was expecting anything different, he came out and did a very professional and tremendous speech. Just a tremendous speech. Went over all the accolades of the Midnight Express. And you got the feeling he really wanted to hit home that, you know, there were a lot of successful territories and acts before the WWF went national. There were stadiums that held wrestling. There were massive arena shows, and the Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express had a huge feud. He went through the development of the Rock and Rolls in Memphis in '83, going to Mid-South, to Jim Crockett Promotions, the help that Dusty provided them. He went so far as to call them national treasures, and then tried to start a rock and roll chant that did not take with this audience. Robert Gibson...
Right, 2017.
Yeah, Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton made their way out, and they had, like, a forest died for the notes that they brought out. They had sheets and sheets and sheets, and at one point they got lost, and I think just kind of started going through stories. Ricky Morton was just... He was Ricky Morton. He was playing to the crowd. He was walking off to the side of the stage constantly. He said that our indie rate is going to go through the roof with this. I mean, this guy was great. He said a lot of people used to say that he was the Gene Simmons of the wrestling business. And he said, brother, Gene Simmons was the Ricky Morton of rock. I could have listened to Ricky Morton. He's a guy I would love to just hear stories from.
He's got a podcast. Did you know that?
Apparently he's got a podcast, I have been told. He praised Ric Flair, just praised him. Talked about the midnight feuds. And the end was the most touching part. Like, Morton and Gibson, I mean, they've had their ups and downs over the years, but Morton just said that, I've had a number of brothers. You are the greatest man I have ever met. And they hugged, and that's how it ended. And, it was a nice speech, but this was, these two are not exactly... You're following Jim Cornette, for one. Yep. These are not professional speech givers. And there were a lot of, like DDP, Jim Cornette. These are prolific speakers. Mm-hmm. Next was Ricky Steamboat to induct Ravishing Rick Rude posthumously. He went over kind of just the heel work of Rick Rude. A lot of stories about his strength in the gym, his attention to selling. He said that in 1997, I believe, he was the bodyguard for DX. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chyna. And then he moved on. I don't know how much Ricky Steamboat was following his DX run. And then he brought out Rick's wife, Michelle, their daughter, Marissa, and son, Rick Rude. And his son, as the music is playing, goes, cut the music.
It was awesome.
And then cut a Rick Rude promo.
Oh, man.
And on paper, a non-performer doing this, it could have been cringeworthy. I thought this guy was really... It was good.
Yeah, I thought he was great for what seemed...
Dude, he was a good talker.
What seemed to be a civilian.
This is not an entertainer. This is not a performer.
Seemed very confident, and his timing of crowd reactions was very professional.
He did a full Rick Rude.
Yeah.
You Central Florida sweat hogs.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Man.
Yeah.
They also honored... their late brother Colton, Rick Rude's son, who died. So that was a nice touch as well. Really nice. It was just the son who spoke here, and he did a very good job for his father, I thought.
He did an excellent job.
We spotted not just Becky Lynch, but Luke Sanders, Way. He's following you.
This is 2 months in a row I'm seeing Luke Sanders and Becky Lynch together.
Then Natalya came out, and she was inducting Beth Phoenix, and said it was Mark Henry who started this friendship, telling Natalya that she reminded him of Beth Phoenix. And they finally met one another, and Beth's big influences were Brett and Owen, and says that she felt that Beth was Owen's gift to her, and she was in tears talking about her friendship with Beth Phoenix and how close these two were.
I didn't know they were such close friends.
Oh, it was, very evident here. I mean, just how much Beth meant to this woman.
She called her soulmate.
Yeah, her destiny.
Yeah, wow.
Beth Phoenix then came out, and I don't know about you, Way, but by the end of the night, I think this was my favorite speech.
Yeah. You know what? It was certainly up there. Trying to think who else.
There were a lot to pick from.
But I really did like her.
This to me was just... This was just such a nice...
Very well delivered, covered...
Such a likable woman. Like, you were just so happy for this person.
Well, like, you get the impression that, this is a woman who's moved on from professional wrestling, is a mother now, and is very happy.
This is very much in the rearview mirror. When they chanted one more match, she just, like, cut him off and moved. It's like, that's not in my life.
It was also really sweet, because, like, you could tell she got actually emotional when they chanted that. It was almost as if, you know, you could tell like there's a real genuine reaction to this person, realizing that this audience still remembered and still liked her. And, you know, it felt like somebody who's moved on from professional wrestling, being able to kind of reminisce and be able to kind of perfectly encapsulate her career with the wisdom that she has now, being removed from it.
She discussed her trainer, Ron Hutchison, mentioned the all-nighters of Apocalypse Wrestling Federation fame for any of you Ontario indie fans of the late 90s, early 2000s. Talked about Molly Holly, who was there. A lot of people that were there for this. Tommy Dreamer was showing. Yeah. Christy Hemme was there. Candice Michelle. Kelly Kelly.
So do you feel like, I mean, all these ex-divas that have shown up for this weekend, do you think it's largely just for this? I don't see them being involved in Mania.
I don't see a role for them on Mania.
Yeah.
I really don't. She talked about Molly Holly, meeting her, and then when Beth reported to OVW, her training was paid for by Molly. And Beth has told this story before, but it's a really cool story.
Yeah,
to hear that.
Really touching.
She praised Santino Marella, who was actually on stage at Strikes-A-Mania while the speech was happening. And then thanked her husband, Adam. And this crowd went nuts as Edge was there with their daughter, one of their two daughters. The other one was at home. And then his music starts playing as Tony Chimmel comes out and does the whole rated R superstar intro for Edge, who seemed completely caught off guard by this.
Yeah.
And I don't think if he had heard about this, he never would have wanted to have been.
No.
He wouldn't have wanted that at all.
Yeah, it's her wife's moment.
The part where she was just chatting about her kids and talking to her daughter, who she was like, one day you'll watch this speech, and I just thought this was outstanding.
It was really sweet. And I mean, when you look at the list of inductees, you know, perhaps Beth Phoenix was not necessarily one that you look at and say, hey, wow, really deserving, 100%. But like, in the end, it doesn't matter. Like, I like hearing people talk about their genuine thoughts about their careers, and whether you think they're, you know, worthy of being in a Hall of Fame or not. Like, you know, these people spent a lot of time and effort getting to where they are in their careers, and a lot of them just have a lot of great stories to tell and a lot of genuine gratitude for, you know, everything that they've been through. So
you just really couldn't help but be really happy for this woman and her family. It was just, I loved this speech. I thought it was great.
It was great. It was very good.
Dana Warrior was out next to do the speech for Eric LeGrand. I don't know what to say about Dana. It's too many Warriors for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole concept of the award, I think, is a little.
Award aside, I was very happy to see this guy, Eric LeGrand. It was tough because the audio was so low.
I couldn't hear a thing he was saying.
I could barely make it out. I could hear just enough. Like, he had a really good speech. It was just so hard we were way up in the rafters, too.
I imagine on TV you could hear him perfectly, but like, we were like in the top deck.
Yeah, it was really hard, but I mean, the audience was very polite about it.
Yep. Everybody was telling each other to be quiet so that we could make out as much as we could. But unfortunately, I can't really comment on much because I didn't hear the speech, really.
It just came across. He is and was a massive fan, and that really came through. The Legacy Award nominees, or the inductees in the Legacy category, were Haystacks Calhoun, Judy Grable, Bearcat Wright, who was not originally one of those that had been reported on that T-shirt. He looks to be an addition. Farmer Burns, Ricky Dozan, Luther Lindsay, June Byers, Toots Mont, and Dr. Jerry Graham, who got a brief video package. No speeches for that. And then the final one was John Cena inducting Kurt Angle. And John Cena came out. Oh, sorry, I skipped the whole one. I totally skipped the APA and Teddy Long. The APA were before the Legacy Award winners. APA came out. It was half comedy, and then it got serious, where they talked about how cheap Teddy Long was, and then Bradshaw went into the struggles Teddy Long had as a black man growing up in the United States and overcoming a lot of racism, and then they brought out Teddy Long, who just seemed like the happiest guy to be going into the Hall of Fame. He just seems so genuinely happy for this honor. And I really like Teddy Long's speech. He told everyone, I know this has gone long. I'm not going to talk endlessly here. And he just boom, boom, boom. It was bullet points on his career.
Did his catchphrases.
The tag team stuff was really funny.
Yeah.
Really good speech from Teddy Long, and in a tough position where this was 3+ hours at this point, and everyone knew Kurt was still to come. They cut it shorter. But I thought he made the most of his time, and it was effective. They left you wanting more.
He looked like he was having a lot of fun, just getting this attention. Yeah.
Yeah, mentioned a lot of just coming up in different roles, from helping with Jim Crockett Promotions as an unpaid helper to becoming a referee, a manager, and then general manager in the WWE. Final one was John Cena, who did a really brief speech, just putting over Kurt Angle as being in a category unto himself. Kurt came out. He just kept his speech. I would say this was under 15 minutes around that time.
Yeah, sorry. Before you move on to Kurt, Cena comes out, and then there obviously a lot of Cena sucks chants, and then a lot of cheers for The Miz.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that'll affect the crowd on Sunday. Because, I mean, when Beth mentioned Nikki and Brie Bella, they got booed too.
They did get some boos.
So I wonder if those two are probably going to get booed a lot.
It is a wider audience at WrestleMania. I don't know if it'll be the same, but it could be. I mean, there was definitely those boos. Goldberg as well.
It'll be quite the proposal. Of boos.
Angle mentioned Steve Bradley, who had passed away, as well as Sean Evans. And when he mentioned the Hardys, this got a huge delete chant.
Yep.
He talked about all the different guys he worked with: Taker, Hunter, Mankind, Austin, Rock, even Rikishi. And then he really went out of his way to talk to the talent about taking chances with your character and your personality. And then he went through like skits of...
He basically kind of wanted to relive his best character moments in the WWE, and the guy had props.
He brought out, it was the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Then he brought out the wig with the headgear, stating that Hulk Hogan tapped out to me wearing this, which was true at King of the Ring. Then what was after that?
The music. He
started doing a rap for the Cena.
Rap.
It almost felt like this guy was doing an impromptu audition.
I don't know about an audition, but it just kind of felt like somebody retelling his best moments of his career. But obviously, nothing about the last 10 years of his career.
No, there was not a
his
peak.
Career ended when he left the WWE.
What's funny, because in the video package for him, they made a point of getting interviews from AJ and from Samoa Joe.
Yes. But I guess I would have imagined at least a mention of something hinting at TNA, but no mention of Samoa Joe, no thanking of really anybody involved with the last 10 years.
It would not surprise me if his speech was cut dramatically.
Yeah, perhaps.
You have to figure he would be the one that would have a lengthy speech, and his was, I want to say 15 minutes. Not much more than that.
It's usually the case, actually, with the headliners.
They usually get the time to go out there.
Yeah.
So he really hammered home, just people remember the moments, and don't be afraid to make yourself the butt of the joke, which, when you look at Kurt Angle in history, you can argue for and against. There was a time for him that stuff was great, and he was tremendous at it. There was also a time when I felt that hurt him when it came to trying to kind of remove himself from that character when he needed to be the top guy.
I think it's a debatable point. He made it a point, though, to say that, your matches will be loved, but your character moments will be remembered forever.
Yeah, and these people...
It's his philosophy, and
He did the sexy Kurt, he sang that. I mean, some of the singing stuff was, it was a little rough.
Yeah.
Not exactly in tune, but it was a fun time for the audience. And then he brought out 2 glasses of milk and doused himself in his beautiful suit in milk.
That was a nice moment.
ending.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the Hall of Fame ceremony. It was about 3 hours and 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't think there was a bad speech in here. I mean, they ranged, but it was long. Like, I think once you're hitting 3 hours on speeches, it's tough.
I had a big coffee break in between, so I was like perked right up and carried me through the rest of the night. Some type of break in the middle is good for these things, you know? Some type of like entertainment segment, video package, whatever. Something to kind of break up just the constant talking. Might be something that they could employ. But, you know, overall, it's weird to grade Halls of Fame ceremonies, because
it's either speeches you like or speeches that didn't click. Yeah, but it's a very easy audience too. I mean, they're not going to hate on a speech.
They're all, you know, very genuine, and they're very emotional, because it's people kind of getting their last chance to speak in front of a public audience, to get that spotlight on them. And I always enjoy them because they feel very, very genuine, very real.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up as we approach our destination point. We're going to be back late Saturday. We're going to be going through, we're planning on Saturday to go to the Jim Ross show and then go to Ring of Honor. We're going to be going to Supercard of Honor, so we will have an extensive rundown of what's one of the most anticipated matches of the weekend, with the ladder war between, or the ladder match between the Bucks and the Hardys, and it's a very strong show beyond just the main event. So we'll be going through that. Sunday, we've got the live Review-A-Wai podcast happening at the Barley and Vine Beer Garden, happening at 11 a.m. Mm-hmm. And any special instructions we have or anything we need to note?
No, you might, if you guys are coming, you'll see that if you go on the official website, it says the place doesn't open till 12. They'll be open at 11 just for us. So
and we'll be there well before 11.
Yeah.
So.
And
they'll be serving beer.
They will be serving beer right at 11 a.m., so get your drink on right before WrestleMania. But we also want to make mention, for those of you who want to hear us talk about the NXT show, we won't be there, but you will be more than covered with the live
two
review.
shows Saturday night. In addition to us, Jason Agnew, Bartender Dave, and Braden will have they're going to be doing it live on Facebook Live at facebook.com/liveaudiowrestling right after TakeOver, and then it'll be up in podcast form afterwards. So 2 more shows on Saturday night before the Law, which is Sunday night at 11:30 Eastern, following WrestleMania. We'll be on that show. Dan and Jay will have an extensive rundown of WrestleMania. And liveaudiowrestling.com. That's the best place to go for all your WrestleMania coverage.
Subscribe to all of our things. Please leave comments if you're enjoying all the content. And,
And come say hello if you see us in Orlando.
Ultimate Thrill Ride.
Good night or good morning.